Hey everybody, Snow Drama here. So during the Steam Summer Sale a couple of weeks ago, I picked up 44 games on Steam. I recently did a video on a few platformers, so check the description for a link to my previous video on Grapple, Link, and Hyposphere. Today, we have a few other games that I've spent time playing. First, we have The Last Leviathan. Of all of the games that I picked up, this one has the most potential. It's an early access game, and it's one of the best that I've played in a long time. The game centers around building a ship using voxel parts. This is best compared to games like Besiege and Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I spent most of my time playing creative mode, and I spent a lot of time making ships look really cool and sailing them around and fighting the little tiny AI ships that are floating around. Unfortunately, most of them don't stand up to the massive, fully armed combat ship that I've been building, so eventually I had to switch playing over to multiplayer. However, in multiplayer, I got absolutely smashed. In Versus, you can fight against ships with a similar size, indicated by the power that you've built up for that ship. And of course, because of the enormous number of parts that I used for the ship, I was going up against really powerful ships. I died so much in Versus, so I need to spend more time studying other ships that were beating me to get better. This game was super fun though, from what I was able to play so far, and although the first few boats I built were looking really cool, they performed absolutely awful. Overall, I really enjoyed this game, and if you enjoy games like silly physics simulators and stuff like that, you'll probably have a good time. But if you're looking for like a campaign or a more than a bite-sized experience, you may want to wait for the final version to come out where they have a campaign and they have more single-player content. Next up on our list we have Moonlight. Now Moonlight is an interesting game because Moonlight is a short casual platformer with a unique visual theme. As it's pretty short, I can't say too much about the story without going to spoiler territory, but what I can say is that the game is about running around and talking to the inhabitants in order to have the player reach the moon. When I say the game is short, I mean I beat the game in about 53 minutes. But there was a twist about halfway through the game that was actually pretty surprising and I didn't expect. The controls are actually really good, and I didn't find any part of the game too challenging. They eventually add a couple of things like reversing gravity and other mechanics, which are pretty cool, but the level design has a lot of backtracking. One of the missions you'll play in the game has a significant amount of backtracking in that the first 4 screens you get to access, you'll have to run back and forth between all 4 of them to find a bunch of things that are really tiny and difficult to see. Overall, the game is a short 1-hour experience that's only $3 on Steam. I got it for $1.50 during the sale, and it's a nice short experience for anyone who likes platformers. Just as long as you don't go into the game expecting a longer experience or anything super epic or shocking, and you won't get disappointed. And finally, that brings us to Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is a farming RPG, much like games like Harvest Moon. The game made a huge impression on people when it came out, and it was super popular. So popular it was hard to avoid discussions about this game. Personally, I think there was a bit of overhyping about the game, but not all the hype was wrong. The game's story primarily is about the player who gets a gift from their grandfather who is dying or something, and I couldn't really figure out what was happening at the very beginning of the game. But then states that the player can only open the gift once they are fed up with modern culture or the modern world. So it turns out that the player is employed by the Joya or Yoya or whatever company and is in fact fed up with modern life. So the player opens up the letter and it is the deed to a farm in Stardew Valley. There is just so much to cover here because this game is so big. So check for a link in the description. When I do that, I will put a link down there. But here's the short version. The controls are solid, the story is solid, there's a lot of depth in the gameplay, dungeon crawling, crafting, farming, building, having relationships with the characters, dating, getting married, that kind of thing. But there are some cons. The biggest of the cons is that the game does something that I've noticed with other games like Harvest Moon and even Animal Crossing, is that you're dropped in the middle of what feels like a living world, right? So there's a lot of stuff that happens very quickly after you begin the game. These are things that you cannot manage to do in the time frame that you have. One of the first events in the game is some kind of Easter-like event This event happens 5 days into the game. This event happens so quickly that you don't have time to prepare anything for the event. You're still learning most of the gameplay, how to farm, talking to all the people, getting to know everyone. So the game literally takes you out of learning how to play the game in order to shove you into one of these events. The other thing is that the progression in the game at the beginning is so slow. It takes you a very long time to get started. The main problem, I think, is that the game requires you to get upgrades to your equipment, but that these upgrades are extremely expensive and can be very difficult to acquire in the early game when you're not getting a lot of income. A quick example would be the backpack. Costs 2,000 gold, and the only thing you've learned at this point in order to purchase it is how to farm parsnips. Parsnips, when purchased from the store, net you 15 gold. So you would have to farm like 150 of them just to get 2,000 gold. The main reason I'm complaining about this is that I believe the game gets very fun after you get the first few upgrades. But those upgrades are super hard to get, and it's a super long grind just to get those. Overall, I think the game is really fun, but I wish the early game was made slightly easier so you could get into the meat of the real game without grinding for 10 hours. I would totally recommend this game to anyone who likes games like Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I upload new game review videos every Friday, and I'm trying to fit another one during the week of some gameplay. You can check out the links in the description or the annotations on screen in order to go check out my previous video on the platformers Ink, Hyposphere, and Grapple. And if I have uploaded it yet, you can check out the other annotation or the other link in the description to go to my final video in the trilogy of my post-Steam sale reviews. And in that third video, I will be covering 3 games. I will be covering Luftreisers, Momodora, Reverie Under the Moonlight, and Downwell. I hope everybody enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Peace out.